Argentina, one of the greatest footballing nations in world football history. Despite this, up until last weekend, the past few decades have been rather forgettable for them. Almost 3 decades worth of major tournament finals between 1993 and 2021 with 0 victories. Some blamed it on arrogance, some called it a curse, some simply chalked it down to rotten luck. Whatever you choose to call it, it was unrelenting. Despite having one of the most gifted teams and crop of players in history at varying points over the past few decades, they were just not able to produce the goods when it came down to it. And if we're talking margins, it really did come down to the finest of them on several occasions. 5 times to be exact. 5 major tournament finals between 1993 and 2021. 7 if you include the now discontinued Confederation Cup, which I guess we should, seeing as how it was a tournament of champions. Nonetheless, the result was the same each time. Since last winning the Copa América in 1993, Argentina have made it to 1 World Cup final, 4 Copa América finals, and 2 Confederation Cup finals, losing each and every single time. Since 1993, they have lost more major tournament finals than any other nation in the entire world. I'm talking World Cup, Euros, AFCON, Asian Cup, Copa América, the works. And before anyone points to the fact that Argentina won Olympic gold in 2004 and 2008, let's not forget that nations rarely send their best players to the Olympics. I mean, it's literally written in the rules that nations are only allowed 3 players over the age of 23 in their final 23-man squad. It can hardly be considered a major tournament in that regard. Still a great achievement, and I'm not taking anything away from Argentina, but let's be real here. In any case, all of that changed on the 10th of July, 2021. Victory at last. He did it. The son of a gun did it. So, how did this happen? How did Argentina win the 2021 Copa América? Yo, what's up everyone? Hope you're all doing well. In today's video, we're going to take a brief dive into the lows and recent historic highs of the Argentina national team. If you like these kinds of videos, be sure to leave a thumbs up, but no worries if not. To be honest, I'm just glad you're here. To kick this story off, let's time travel all the way back to 1991. We begin our story with an Argentina side that were the reigning World Cup champions at that point in time, facing up against Germany in the 1990 World Cup, a match which they lost. This is also a match that is dubbed by many as the lowest quality World Cup final in history. In fact, this entire tournament is remembered by many for its slow pace and the defensively rigid approach that a lot of the teams took. But that's besides the point. In any case, Argentina were able to exercise their demons in the 1991 Copa América, coming out victorious on that occasion. A victory marked almost equally by the prestige of winning the famous trophy, as well as Diego Maradona's omission from the squad due to his highly publicized drug use. Again, 2 years later, in 1993, Argentina sat at the very top of South American football, and again, without Maradona, who, despite being available for selection, did not travel with the rest of the squad to Ecuador, where the tournament was held. At this point in time, La Albiceleste had won 3 major tournament trophies in 7 years. The 2 aforementioned Copa América titles and the 1986 World Cup. Not to mention that their losses included a runners-up medal in the 1990 World Cup and 4th and 3rd place finishes in the 1987 and 89 Copa Américas respectively. These guys were very arguably the most feared footballing nation on the planet at this point in time. This is where the arrogance comes into play. Arrogance that the footballing world and Colombia in particular were eager to punish. In the 1994 World Cup qualifiers, Argentina ended up finishing 2nd in their group and barely managed to even qualify for the World Cup itself, requiring the Interconfederation playoffs to make it through, only just beating Australia over 2 legs courtesy of an own goal. Taking things back to Colombia, and one of the main reasons for the situation that Argentina found themselves in was the 5-0 hammering that Colombia gave them during the qualifiers. This was only 2 months after their 1993 Copa América win. As you can imagine, this was a result that left the entire footballing world in shock. Mauricio Silva Guzman, a renowned Colombian journalist, once wrote a book dedicated to this match and the effects that it had on Colombian football. In this book, he alludes to the fact that this victory and the events that occurred in it were done, and I quote, on the behalf of all South Americans who have for so long suffered the arrogance of Argentina. I guess that was only the beginning. 28 years on, and Argentina suffered disappointment after disappointment, failing to emulate their past successes and essentially gaining a reputation as the best losers in world football. 18 major tournaments, 7 finals, 0 trophies. First, there was Denmark. Then Brazil. Then Brazil again. Then Brazil once more. Then Germany. Then Chile. Then Chile again. I think it goes without saying that the Argentina-Brazil rivalry is a highly contentious one. Alongside Uruguay, these two are by far and away the most successful South American footballing nations in history. Losing 3 finals in a row to them is less than ideal, to say the least. And while each and every one of these losses hurt in their own way, it was surely the final 3 that stung the deepest. This is, in large part, due to the fact that they occurred back to back to back in the space of 3 years. Argentina and Germany have their own international rivalry going on too. Having previously met in 2 World Cup finals, the scoreboard read 1 win apiece for each nation going into the 2014 World Cup. That record now reads 7-1. Sorry, wrong scoreboard. 2-1 to Germany. It can get confusing with these Germans sometimes, you have to forgive me. Argentina and Chile share the longest international border of any 2 nations in South America. That, along with the various historic geopolitical issues that the 2 nations have faced, means that this is a heated rivalry too. All 3 of these losses took more than the normal 90 minutes to be decided, and all 3 featured very strong Argentine sides that squandered massive opportunities to settle the matches. Over here, we have 3 clips that I would suggest you close your eyes for if you are a Gonzalo Higuain sympathizer.
Terrible back header into the path of Higuain, who should have opened the scoring.
Magic, Levenzi, back post. Va a ser el primero de Higuain.
Having said that, Higuain was not the only one to blame. Football is a team sport after all. Yes, Messi did a lot of heavy lifting over the years. He also missed his share of important chances. Yes, Higuain missed a few big chances too. He also scored his share of important goals to get to the finals in the first place. And yes, the Argentine FA have had their fair share of controversies and underperforming managers. The days of Jorge Sampaoli using 13 different lineups with 59 players in his first 13 matches in charge were dark days for the Argentine national team indeed. But I guess none of that really matters, because at the end of the day, the history books will forever read the same thing for each player. L. Following the devastating 2016 Copa América loss, Messi announced his retirement from international football. He did return a year later ahead of the 2018 World Cup, but Argentina were knocked out of that tournament in the round of 16, and the trophy drought continued. This brings us all the way through to the 47th edition of the Copa América in 2021. Before getting into the tournament itself, I feel we have to give full props to Argentina's head coach Lionel Scaloni. Of course, it's one thing to have Leo Messi and a gifted team at your disposal, but winning in the fashion that they did deserves massive respect. Let's not forget that arguably superior Argentina teams, which also had Messi in them by the way, have come up short in the past. Now, as always, I'm not going to go into too much detail regarding the tactics and setup of this Argentina side throughout the tournament, but let's go over a brief overview of how these men set up. Argentina set up in various formations over the course of the tournament and shuffled the squad pretty heavily, I must say. The idea behind each formation was firstly to get the best out of their own players, and secondly to cater their approach to each specific opponent. For instance, against Brazil in the final, they played in a 4-4-2, a starting formation that they had not really gone for up to that point in the tournament. Lionel Messi and Lautaro Martinez were played up top, with Messi being used as a dummy for much of the match. He frequently drifted off to the right, freeing up space for the rest of the team in the center and on the left side of the pitch. In a few instances in the final, Giovanni Lo Celso was left with acres of space on the left simply due to the fact that Brazil were double, even triple teaming on Messi. As expected, Martinez was the main striker here and would drop deep when out of possession to make sure Brazil did not have numerical advantages in the midfield as they were playing in a 4-3-3. Leandro Paredes and Rodrigo de Paul made up the midfield too, with Paredes acting as the screen and de Paul offering a combination of intense work and creativity. De Paul did put up an absolute shift and set up the only goal of the match, after all. Giovanni Lo Celso and Angel Di Maria played as the wide midfielders, with each of them having different responsibilities. Lo Celso was deployed in a false winger role, drifting infield to relieve pressure from the defense by offering himself as a passing option and generally progressing the ball. And while he was disciplined in defense, Di Maria was played in a more offensive role as expected. After all, he did score the only goal. In defense, they had Gonzalo Montiel, Christian Romero, Nicolas Otamendi and Marcos Acuna. A very solid back line. Also a back line that was very much not a constant throughout the tournament. Nicolas Tagliafico played on the left at times, Nahuel Molina played on the right, and Germán Petzela and Lisandro Martinez both made appearances in the center. Nicolas Otamendi in particular, who is a man that suffered some very heavy criticism for both club and country over the years, put in a very admirable shift at the back. Hats off to him. And at the very back, we had this guy. Emiliano Martinez, an absolute beast between the sticks in this tournament, pulling off some huge saves, including 3 in the penalty shootout in the semi-finals. This guy will surely go down in the history books as one of the greatest players of mind games to ever step to the pitch, and even he was rotated with Franco Armani in the group stages. No relation that I'm aware of. Otherwise, of the 7 matches that Argentina played in this tournament, 4 were played in a 4-3-3, 2 in a 4-2-3-1, and 1 in a 4-4-2. Sergio Aguero, Alejandro Gomez and Angel Correa played their part in this tournament, with Ezequiel Palacios and Guido Rodriguez stepping up when needed too. Again, we really have to give it up to Lionel Scaloni and his backroom staff. Managing this many high-quality players, slotting them in where required and coming out with the results that he did is nothing short of exceptional. All in all, this was a phenomenal tournament for Argentina. They ended a 28-year trophy drought and finally got the better of a Brazil side that's caused them such pain over the years by beating them in a final in Brazil. After all the disappointment that they've experienced in recent years and the performances that they put up in this tournament, nobody can say that they didn't deserve this. Argentina are champions of South America once more. An entire generation has passed since Argentina last lifted silverware, and the man, deservedly might I add, grabbing all the headlines, is this guy. This genius. This footballing deity. Understandably, there is one question on everyone's mind right now, although, depending on who you ask, this has been a rubbish question for some time now, even stretching back to before this tournament. Can Lionel Messi finally be acknowledged as the greatest of all time? Realistically, it is very difficult to argue against declaring him as the GOAT. It's been that way for some time now, even stretching back before this tournament. But at the same time, I really don't know. I personally haven't watched every footballer in human history play every week for 17 years like I have with him. So from a balanced perspective, it really is a hard question to answer. That's how I feel about it, at least. You're more than welcome to feel differently. And as I say that, I can already tell that there's probably at least one person in the comments that's taken that as a personal attack. Please don't do that. Messi's probably the greatest player of his generation. I do still think that. But what I will say is that the thing that most people held over his head as the main reason for dismissing his greatness is no longer a point of discussion. Finally, he's won a major tournament with Argentina. And he did it in style too. He made us wait, but it was well worth it. With 4 goals and 5 assists, Lionel Messi is the first ever player to score the most goals, have the most assists, be awarded the player of the tournament, and win the whole damn thing in the history of major international football tournaments. That is insane. Before life goes on and we go on to the next big tournament or league or whatever, I just want you all to remember 2 things. Firstly, the man is 34 years old and is still pulling out performances like this. Honestly ridiculous, but should we really be surprised at this point? Secondly, and I can't stress this one enough, regardless of what he does with the rest of his career and beyond, don't let the history books forget that he became a Copa America champion while being unemployed. If that doesn't motivate you to stand up and achieve your dreams, frankly, I don't know what will. And on that note, that's going to be all from me today. Really hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think of Argentina's incredible ride and return to the top. Is this only the beginning of a golden age in Argentine football? Feel free to leave it all in the comments. Hope you're all staying safe. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.